Hey guys, Mark Keys of Online Strength Coach and castironstrength.com here. Today we're going to do another episode of Just the Tip. Today's tip is going to Thomas Delaney, who left a comment on the last episode of YouTube. His question: some tips on how to use a belt would be useful, where to position it, how tight to wear it, how frequently to use it, etc. Okay, Thomas, so first thing we're going to cover is the belt. So this kind of gimp looking device right here is my belt. I use a Titan Libra belt. I thought it was an Inzer Forever belt, but Ali informed me it was actually a Titan belt, which made me feel instantly less cool. As you'll see, it's quite sturdy. It's 13 millimeters thick. So in the IPF, assuming you're going to compete in the IPF or you compete in the IPF, you can only utilize a belt that is uniformly the whole width round. Like that. So you'll see some weightlifting belts have a taper come around here. These aren't IPF legal. I think there are a few tapered belts that are legal for IPF. I could be wrong on that. But if you want a supportive belt, you want one that's the same width the whole way around anyway. So when it says 10 meter or 13 millimeter, when you're looking at it, it refers to the width of the belt. And as you can see, this is a composite of a few strips of leather that have been stitched together. Double stitched. This is a very high quality belt, high quality construction. If you buy a belt from Inzer, Titan, Werlander as they're called now, you'll get a very good quality belt. You'll pay upwards of 100 quid for it, probably pay between 100 to 160 quid. The new SBD belt, I've seen the prototype last summer. It's an excellent belt, excellent design. It's 165 quid. It's basically a lever belt, but it's adjustable. So the problem with the lever belt, which we'll discuss shortly when we're going over what belt you might want to choose, what belt you might want to buy and eventually go on to use, is that it's set to one. It's set to one and only one width. So you'll see here, it's got two bolts to hold it in place on the lever mechanism. Now, if you want to remove those, you need either a screwdriver or a 5 or a 20p to unscrew it and remove it. It's got a couple of washers through the other end as well. If you have a screwdriver, it's probably about a 5-minute job, which, as we'll discuss in a second, can be a bit of a pain, especially in the context of a meet. Okay, so first of all, where would you wear the belt? What exercises would you wear the belt for? So when it comes to powerlifting, you'll see people that wear the belt for bench press, although this is not necessarily helpful. This is something that actually gets actively coached out of some of the IPC lifters that lift for British weightlifting, because they basically say it doesn't help at all. Some people like to wear it. When you're arching up, some people can feel it across their back as a cue for arching. Some people think it helps them get tighter in a bench press. I don't really think it helps. It doesn't help. If you see the last competition I wore it, the reason I was wearing it, so I had Ali's Werlander belt, which had a different mechanism, and I wanted to try using it at the time. Okay, so what we really want to use this for is squat and deadlift. So we asked about tightness. On the squat, you want to get it as tight as possible without impeding your hip action. So what I've got here, so put on the lever belt, put it around your waist, and then you secure it into these two holes. And you'll see here it's not very tight. It's fairly loose. Apologies for the massive gut. And from there, flip the lever like a boss. And that is it. Tight. This is tighter than you're ever going to get it. You're ever going to get a prong belt. You're going to get a single prong, double prong. You'll get a ratchet belt this tight. So this is about where I would wear the belt for a squat. When you squat with a belt on, so how the belt works is, if you imagine your torso is like a water balloon, and in the water balloon there's a pocket of air at the top. So it's sloshy and it's quite soft to touch. And if you were to compress it, it would misshape and deform a little bit. That's a fairly good analogy for your spine. So what the belt does is it increases intra-abdominal pressure. So if you imagine what we're to do now is take that same water bottle or that same water balloon, that air pocket at the top. We're to grab around the bottom of the water balloon, like the belt is to my torso right now, and squeeze it up and fill the whole water balloon with water so there's no pocket of air anymore. Then you feel the water balloon. So a bit firmer now. If you're to push it, it wouldn't deform so much. It becomes a lot more solid. That's basically what the belt does. It pushes your insides up. Like, so when I push this in, it's like squeezing up. So now I'm a lot stiffer. My torso is stiffer. I'm a lot more difficult to deform. When you're doing a back squat, unless you're very tall, you want to wear the belt around this sort of place here. You want to wear it low in the torso. And so between this and the bar sitting on your back, you get in a nice tight position. And you want to wear it high enough so you still can go to comp depth. Any deeper, like this. Then we start going down. This will start cutting into your thigh, start impeding your depth. So that's where you want to wear it on squat. On deadlift, depending on your torso length, how you deadlift. If you're a sumo deadlifter, you probably want to wear it somewhere similar to where I just showed on the squat, because it's a similar sort of idea. We've got a more vertical profile on a sumo, so there's less there's less of a lever with the back, so we don't really need to shore up L4 or any of the junctions. Conventional deadlift that you've seen George Lehman's videos on how he wears his deadlift. This is something that I took up from a super training video a couple of years ago, which I find actually worked quite well for me. This isn't to say that this is the way you should definitely wear it on conventional, but it can help me quite a lot. Basically what he does is he wears it quite high up on his torso. So he likes to hold it a bit of an angle, so he'd like to hold it at the angle of the arch like that. And then he'll pull it tight. And basically the idea is it supports your thoracic arch, or it supports your lower abdominal arch. So if you want to collapse when you deadlift it, this is going to hold you in extension. So this is about the height that he wears it, kind of around the rib cage. I don't wear it quite so high. I've found sort of around here, maybe a bit higher. This is where I probably would prefer a prong belt. If I'm deadlifting in the gym, I'll steal someone's prong belt off them. I should probably buy one, or I'll borrow the gyms when I'm back at work. Kind of wear it like this. So I'll wear it looser on deadlifts, so you'll notice when I'm going for the squat, I'll go straight in to the double buckles like that. On deadlift, slightly looser like that. So it's a bit less secure, but still pretty secure. I mean, the lever belt is probably the safest of the belts, if you will. The mechanism pretty much guaranteed to stay in, apart from if it's from strength shop, apparently. So we pull in here, and the idea is a bit lower, but it's supporting the part of my back that I feel collapses when it comes to deadlift. I mean, I find it very difficult to round over wearing it like that. So on squat, I'd have it lower down because there's a compressive effect of the barbell on your back. So this is going to push up, the barbell is going to push down. The net result of which is you're going to have a high amount of intra-abdominal pressure, which means your torso is going to be very solid. It's going to take a lot of weight or some very bad technique to get out of that good straight back position. In deadlift, I'd wear it looser. The reason why you don't want to wear it too tight on deadlift is when you get down into that more kind of a longer profile position, if it's too tight, it cuts in to the torso, and when you start pulling, you'll feel it cutting in a lot. One, it's off-putting, but two, it can also actively take you out of position, which we don't want. So we wear it looser on deadlift, on a conventional deadlift, and we can wear it slightly higher up. That's something I would experiment with when you're deadlifting, wearing it lower, wearing it higher. I've found higher is better. I don't wear it quite so high as what the George Lehman pointer is, supporting the thoracic spine. I've just found slightly higher supports my torso better, supports my deadlift better. And on sumo, we probably want to wear it similar to we do in a squat, as in tight and low down in the torso, just kind of take more advantage of that intra-abdominal pressure that we talked about at the start of the video. Okay, so that's the lever belt. Other belts you can utilize a ratchet belt. There's a ratchet mechanism, single prong belt, double prong belt. If you want to know which one to buy, and you're not too sure, I would probably go for a single or a double prong. One, because they're probably slightly cheaper than the other belts. Two, they're easier to adjust. So when we're talking about for deadlift and we're talking about squat, there can be quite a lot of variation in how tight people like the belt. Some people like it super tight, some people don't like it too tight. So if you're one of these people that likes a really tight belt on squat but likes a kind of a looser belt on deadlift, it can be a real pain in the ass trying to change where the lever mechanism is on the belt. Can't take 5 minutes, but can take up to 10 to 15 minutes depending on how ham-fisted you are or the tools that you have available. So that's the actual belts themselves. As regards to where to use them, how often to use them, again, this is preference. Something I would say is if you're coming up to a competition, the mistake that I made last competition was I didn't bring the belt into training early enough. I would probably say you want to wear your belt for all attempts over 80% or even 70%, probably at least 6 weeks out from the competition. Typically a competition cycle that I will write will be anywhere from 6 up to 9 weeks, but they tend to be shorter now, like 5-6 weeks. Unless there's a period of time like you have a comp and a comp, and the comp's 9 weeks out, so 9 weeks is not really long enough to do a preparation cycle into a competition specific cycle, so we'll probably put together a longer 9-week competition cycle for that, in which case I would probably recommend that you wear the belt the whole cycle for the 9 weeks. You want to wear the belt on an overload cycle or an overreach cycle, so if you're doing something, for instance, like Smolov, or you're doing something like Russian squat routine, with the idea of achieving a new 1RM back squat, then you want to wear the belt through the whole cycle. It's going to allow you to utilize heavier weights, heavier poundages. Where I wouldn't wear the belt in training is, say you've got a long period without competition, 16, 22 weeks, something like that. If you're doing a volume or technique cycle, I would keep the belt off then. It's keeping the belt off is good because it can teach you better techniques with deadlift and squat. You can get away a lot with a belt, but you can't get away without it. So in the back squat, you can lift with like a flex torso a lot more often with a lot more weight than you can without the belt. So without the belt typically tends to teach people to hold their torso better through the lift, which means when you add the belt, you're going to lift more weight anyway because you're utilizing it to have a higher inter-abdominal pressure, which eventually is going to lead to more weight rather than using it to help your spine hinge against more load, which you're going to lift less weight doing that technique anyway. If you want like a general rule on it, I'd say anything over 80% wear the belt unless you're going through a beltless period. In the lead up to a competition, wear the belt above anything over 80% or over 70%, so you can get used to it. It's a slightly different technique in the belt and out of the belt. How you sit out of the bottom of the hole, how you set up, etc. can be affected by the belt. I find when I wear the belt in the squat, the timing's different when I stand out of the bottom, and that's something I need to get used to. I found I left the belt off till about a week and a half before the last comp, and I doubled 270 kilos in the gym, and the weight was easy. What was hard was the whip and the timing of standing up, if that makes any sense. It was more the coordination of the lift rather than the actual effort of standing that was difficult. So yeah, the belt's definitely something you should utilize in your training. If you do compete, you should absolutely have a belt. Seeing people competing without the belt is ridiculous. You will lift at least 10-20 kilos in your total more wearing it. It's competition legal, so please God, wear it. And I would definitely advise you to buy a good belt. Don't scrimp, don't spend 50. I know like strength shop belts might be 50-60 quid, but their build quality is horrendous. This here is 10 years old. It's still in fantastic quality. The build quality is fantastic. I've been using it for about 5 years. Ali was using it for a couple of years before that. Friend Mark Hunter has got the same design of belt. He's had it for my friend Mark Thompson has the same design of belt. He's had it for 15 years, 20 years. Guy's deadlifted 350, squats like 280. Big strong guy, uses the shit out of his belt. and it's still in fantastic quality. So definitely spend on it, and it's definitely somewhere within lifting where spending the money you're going to get the return from it. Probably believe that's probably true for all of your equipment when it comes to lifting. Okay, hope you've enjoyed getting the tip, Tom. That'll conclude today's episode. I'll be back for another one soon. If you have any questions you'd like answered or you would like to receive the tip, then please leave a comment below. If not, then I'll just go straight off the dome. Thank you very much for watching.